Welcome to Between the Sheets, the podcast where we're going to cover a variety of topics related to sexual health and wellness. I'm Dr. Stephanie Zwonitzer, your host. I'm a nurse practitioner and have been in practice since 2017. I have my Doctor of Nursing Practice degree, and I specialize in urology and sexual health. I am so excited to explore all of the various topics related to sexual health and wellness with you in a fun, spicy, educational, and non-judgmental manner. So come on. Let's get between the sheets. Hey everybody, welcome back to Between the Sheets. We have another guest on with us today, and I am really excited about today's topic of the erotic blueprints. I have Laurie Love with me, who is a certified erotic blueprint and intimacy coach. She loves helping people discover who they are as erotic beings through the 5 erotic blueprint types to create the sex lives they really want. If you haven't heard of the erotic blueprints, they are like the love languages for sex and intimacy. She's been working with the Erotic Blueprints since their inception over 10 years ago and is dedicated to experiencing more pleasure in this lifetime by bringing more pleasure into our daily lives and relationships. Welcome, Laurie.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Yes, you as well. I'm so excited. So, I've known about the 5 love languages forever. For those of you who don't know, it's a book by Gary Chapman. He is a phenomenal writer, and it's such an interesting way to think about that we do feel and give love in different ways, and that can be a good thing and a difficult thing in relationships if you don't match up. So to hear that there's this with intimacy as well, I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. When this was first revealed to me by my mentor, Jaya, who's the creator of this framework, my mind was blown because I finally felt like I understood myself as an erotic being for the first time. It's life-changing and transformational. So I love sharing this work with people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. And just like the love languages where you and your partner might have different things that work for you, I'm assuming that's the same thing with the erotic blueprints.
Oh, most definitely. So to get right into it, there's 5 erotic blueprint types, and those types are the energetic type, the sensual type, the kinky type, the sexual type, and the shapeshifter type. And each one of these has their own nuances. They like different kinds of touch. They need to be communicated to in a certain way. And so when um, when I discovered that my blueprint types were different than my partner's blueprint types, it all of a sudden, like, everything made sense why we weren't connecting the way that I wanted to connect. So to give you an example, there's an erotic blueprint quiz that you can take online. If you go to my website, www.laurielove.org, you can take I'll send you a link so that you can take the free erotic blueprint quiz. And there's also a paid quiz as well. The free quiz will tell you what your primary erotic blueprint type is and some information about it. And the paid quiz will tell you what percentages you are in each blueprint, and then give you a 28-page report, like all about that primary blueprint. And when I took the
that's
quiz,
awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. So when I took the quiz and my partner took the quiz, I scored really, really high in energetic, sensual, and psychological kink. So I scored really low in sexual and shapeshifter. My partner scored really, really high in sexual and really low in energetic. So right off the bat, we had a great starting point to go, oh, okay, I'm highly energetic and you're not. You're highly sexual and I'm not.
Right.
Okay, no wonder things aren't lining up or matching up for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can include your website and the quiz and stuff in the show notes so people have easy access to that. So I'll take care of that when this launches. So let's talk through the different let's talk through the different blueprint models. It's the end of the week and I just can't help it. This is what it is.
I love it. It's great.
All right. What's the first blueprint?
So I love to talk about the energetic blueprint first, because this blueprint is all about energy. Energetics are very, very sensitive emotionally and physically and energetically to everything that's going on around them. So this can look like really sensitive to EMFs, really sensitive to other people's energy, really in tune with like nature and the earth and the moon cycles,
Okay.
things like that. And what's really important about energetics is that arousal can start way before any physical touch happens. So
Hmm.
because
Yep.
the energetic blueprint can feel people's energy, um, they like just someone entering a room and having that energy, they can sense it and feel it. And so having a lot
Hmm.
of like space and building anticipation is really, really hot for the energetic blueprint.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes the energetic blueprint can have orgasms without being touched. That's like one of their
Ooh,
superpowers. Yeah, there are
love that
ways
for
to
them.
have, Tantra is like the energetic,
Hmm.
sexual practice, where yes, there's touching involved in Tantra, but there's a lot of exercises where you're breathing together, you're hovering hands
Mm.
over your body or your partner's body, you're sending them energy. And let me tell you, for anybody who is like, what, that sounds really woo woo and huh, it is a fact. And my favorite story to tell about this is that my partner, when we first started this, thought that like, what energy? He's a sexual blueprint, so he's all about touch. Touch is one of his love
Yeah.
languages. And so when we discovered that being an energetic being, like I don't even need any touch, um, I was like lit up at this. And he was like, how can this be possible? And so we did a practice together. And what we practiced was him hovering his hands over my heart. And in this practice of him simply doing this and believing that there was something to this and this is what I needed, tears started streaming down my face as he was hovering
Mm.
his hands over my heart. And in that moment, he believed, because he could see in my body that something was happening, something was changing, something was shifting. And that all of a sudden shifted his perspective and went, okay, there's something to this. I better pay attention to it. And with
Mm.
my partner being such an energetic being, like, I need to feed her in this way. I need to see her in this way. I need to approach her in this way. And that was just a pivotal
Yeah.
moment where we really came together and met each other. And like that's what I love about these
Mm.
blueprints. It's like, what, we didn't even realize that this was a thing or that it was possible. And so now that it is, it's like
Yeah.
it's fun. It's so fun to play with. And I feel seen, understood, and finally taken care of. Because what was happening was like he would
Yeah.
approach me intimately and like begin to touch my genitals. And that would shut me
Hmm.
down and like short circuit me because I was like, whoa, I'm not ready for that, you know? Um,
Right.
and
Right.
and so him understanding that he needed to approach me more slowly, and maybe have some more
Yeah.
conversation, talk about and describe what it is that he wanted to do with me or to me. That's what got me really, really juicy and really excited. So that's what I'm talking
What a
about when
great story.
arousal happens without
Yeah.
even being touched. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Something totally. Something else about the energetic blueprint is that like as your partner's arousal level rises, so does yours. So him being a sexual
Mm.
blueprint, he's all ready to go, right? And I can actually
Yeah.
feed into that energy, and it makes me ready to go too. So it's like we
Okay.
can kind of like ride the waves together. So that's super fun. Some of the
That is fun.
shadows
I
of the
love
inner.
that.
So each one of these blueprints has superpowers, and those are the things that I was describing as like what turns you on and what you're really into. And
Hmm.
then there's also the shadow side, which are the things that like take you out of pleasure or kind of block you from pleasure.
Okay.
So I had talked about that hypersensitivity of like being touched too fast, too soon, and that shutting me down.
Hmm.
That's totally an energetic shadow. Um, Also
Okay.
being like bombarded or overwhelmed by other people's energy, whether it's TV, media, being in a public place with a lot of people, that overwhelm energy can like keep us from pleasure because we don't feel safe, right? We're not
Mm,
relaxed.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So things like that. I find that the energetic
Mm,
blueprint also has kind of trouble with boundaries, because they get really
okay.
caught up in other people's energy. It's like
Mm,
when,
sure.
in with having a sexual partner and getting caught up in that energy, I didn't realize sometimes he's ready to go 0 to 60, right? I'm not ready to go 0 to 60. And so I found that I
Hmm.
was like overriding myself. I was doing things too fast and too soon
Yeah.
for my body. And so really like taking a step back and slowing down, hugely, hugely important, giving that time and space.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a unique perspective. I mean, the more I learn about energies and not just in a sexual way, but just throughout my life in general, how impactful that is. So I can see if that's your blueprint, how important getting that right would be, because I can totally understand if that's where you're coming from, the don't touch me right away. Like, soothe me, get my soul ready, and then I'm going to be ready for the rest of it.
Exactly. And so without knowing this information, like we have a tendency to like do the same behaviors or the same patterns. And then it's like, well, why isn't it working? Well, it worked this one day,
Right.
but it's not working the next day. Or it worked with this partner, but it's not
Yeah.
working with this partner. So really
Sure.
learning and understanding each other's blueprint is huge to your success. So
Absolutely. So, what's the next one? We did energetic.
So next one is sensual blueprint. So the sensual blueprint is all about the five
Okay.
senses. So touch, taste, sight, sound, smell, right? They are really able to like, they have a huge capacity for pleasure because like everything can be pleasurable. Walking into a beautifully decorated
Mm,
room, just strolling around the supermarket looking at flowers, like the abundance
mm,
of pleasure that is around us with food and smells and music. They love
mm.
their world to be rich in sensuality and all of these things. Um, Orgasms can be a multisensory experience. And the beauty of the sensual blueprint is that it's not about the end goal of reaching climax or orgasm. It's all about the journey. It's
Mm,
indulging
yeah.
with nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, and really like relaxing into it. So, yeah,
No, that's
super fun.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
And
is
so
their
some
shadow
of the
side?
shadows, yeah. So some of their shadows are that that sensual blueprint tends to get stuck in our heads. So, we're
Okay.
not able to like relax because our minds are so occupied. They're so busy. What happened today? What's going on? What's on our laundry list? If the room is messy or something, like they can be very particular. If something isn't in the right
Sure.
spot, it can really like irritate, right? Like kind of like
Yeah.
Princess in the Pea, sand in the sheets.
Yes.
It's like, uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
And
really
so
relating with this one.
sensual,
This one's relating.
awesome, awesome. The sensual blueprint also has a tendency to worry a lot. How is this going to go? How do I smell? What's going to happen? Am I doing this right? Are they going to da 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 da? And so it's the brain
Yeah.
chatter. It's that being in the head. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yep.
sensuals can seem incredibly picky and like easily thrown off if something isn't right when conditions aren't perfect. Um, Sensuals also
Okay.
feel like their partner can't get it right, that everything their partner does is wrong. So there's a lot of judgment, yeah, that can happen with the sensual
Okay.
shadow. So it's
Okay.
really cool to identify which shadows you have, because then you can start
Yeah.
healing these shadows. And by healing
Right.
these shadows, that's the fastest way to actually increase intimacy. You can learn all of the
Oh.
techniques and all of the things,
Hmm.
but healing the shadows is actually the fastest way to like take your foot off
Okay.
the brakes
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so fascinating. I'm loving it.
Cool. And like I'm just scratching the surface. When you do the
Yeah.
erotic blueprint quiz, if you do the paid quiz, it'll send you the report in your
Hmm.
primary blueprint and it'll give you all of the superpowers and all of the shadows in the report. I'm just like I kind of
Okay.
grab the ones that I really love to talk about because they're the ones that like I can identify with the
Yeah.
most and I have the most stories about. And there are so
Right.
many
Right.
more than
Yes.
this. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, and that's
I
what really
so
why I
hope
love
that
doing this podcast. Yeah, I love doing this podcast for that specific reason is that there's so many facets to sex and sexuality and sexual health and that for to send somebody and do this quiz and learn about this aspect of themselves is only going to improve their sex life. And then if they do have a study partner, that they can have them take the quiz as well. Or maybe have you seen it change like with phases of life too? Like pre-kids
oh,
versus
yes,
post-kids versus empty nesting?
most definitely, and it can also change, like, year to year, as
Hmm.
you also expand and you learn about these blueprints, you can expand into other blueprints. So it's like we tend to
Yeah.
have our primary and sort of secondary. But when you really focus on something, it's like you don't get what you want, you get what you're committed to. Right. And so if you
Sure.
expand into another blueprint, like all of a sudden, like you incorporate that into your being and it becomes a part of you. So yeah, it can absolutely
Mm.
change with hormones, phases of
Sure.
life. Oh yes, all of the above. Most
And I would
definitely.
imagine from partner to partner as well. If a
Oh yeah.
partner makes you feel very safe, maybe you're a little bit more sensual with them. The next person is just maybe not rubbing you that way. And so maybe you're a little bit more energetic with them or maybe more sexual, like I would imagine even partner to partner, it
Yeah, and
changes.
that like yes, absolutely. And like I'm glad that you said that because like the next blueprint that I want to talk about is the kinky blueprint.
Hmm.
And that's the one that's like whatever is taboo to you. And that's like it has
Okay.
an edge to it, you know?
Yeah.
It's different. So yeah, if you're with an energetic partner, there might be a lot of space and no touch. If you're with a sensual partner, there's a lot of touch going on, and a lot of like
Yeah.
indulging in food and stuff. With a kinky partner, you're trying all kinds of different things and maybe playing out different scenarios, and doing like edgier stuff. So the kinky
Hmm.
blueprint is whatever is taboo to you. And so there's the whole BDSM world. It's that, and it can also
Hmm.
be as simple as like premarital sex is taboo in most religions, right? And growing
Yeah.
up, like we're
Yep.
kind of programmed that
Yep.
way, right? So okay, being naughty, you know, um,
Yeah.
is
Yep.
yep, becomes a thing, and it's a huge turn on. So
Yep.
some of the superpowers of the kinky blueprint is that like you can reach levels of turn on and orgasm by simply playing in the mind. Some of those
Mm.
stories and scenarios I was telling you about. Um,
Yeah.
Kinky people are incredibly creative, and there's
Okay.
like this whole abundant world of fun things to discover and pleasure to be derived in this
Okay.
kinkiness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I can see that.
mhm. Super fun to play with. There's also really deep healing that I have found and
Mm.
seen in having a kinky container. Because
Okay.
once you're seen in your kinkiness and you're accepted and you're not judged for it, whew, like layers of shame can melt away. So
Yeah. Yeah,
kinkies are
for sure.
super cool people.
Yeah.
And we all have each one of these in us. It's just a matter of where
Mm.
we're at in our life, what we're into right now, what we want to discover, and things that have happened to us in the past. Um, some of
Yeah.
the shadows of the kinky blueprint is that feeling of deep shame that I was just talking
Mm.
about, having a lot of guilt or judgment over what your
Mhm.
turn ons and your desires are because they're taboo. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
people that like we can be open with, and say,
Mhm.
hey, these are the things I like. It's like, oh my gosh, freak someone out or, be judged for it.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's a lot.
interesting. I had a patient today who went through a divorce a couple of years ago, and they had been together for 30 plus years. So they knew what worked for each other. They didn't judge each other anymore. They had, years of figuring each other out. And now he's in the dating world, and he's like, I don't really like anything like that out of the box, but I know that X gets me off. That's what I need for my orgasm.
Yep.
And he's like, sometimes it's really difficult for me to bring that up because I get judged. And he's like, and so I just don't. And then my partners are getting upset because I'm not reaching climax. And then they think something's
Yeah.
wrong with them. And he's like, it's not them. It's just that I need specific things to reach my climax. And I don't know that I can tell everybody what I want. So
Yeah.
yeah, which makes me sad because I'm like, let's talk about sex, baby, like
Mhm.
all the things. But it's so true that there is this shame associated with it, and it's really unfortunate. And I'm hoping that through this podcast and just in general, we can kind of bust through this shamefulness and allow people to explore and have so much fun in their sex lives.
Totally. Yeah. Normalizing conversations about what our desires are. And there is so much power in our vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been finding that in my relationship, even after 22 years, I realized that there were things that I had never told my partner. Like a few weeks
Yeah.
ago, I literally went through sort of my dating history and like my sexual history with him. And I'd never done that before. Maybe I did when it was
Hmm.
early on in our relationship. And, we've been
Yeah.
very open and transparent with each other and without judgment. And with me going through like, and here's what happened with this one, and here's what happened with this one, and here's what I was looking for in this, and here, he really got a
Yeah.
great sense of me, like in sharing all of that vulnerably, which a lot of people don't want to do. I talked to somebody
Mm-hmm.
recently that was like, I never did that with my husband before I got married. And I was like, I don't recommend it for
Yeah.
everybody, but like my partner said, wow, thank you for sharing that with me because now I understand you so much better. I get it now.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from and what you've been looking for, and why and
Sure.
what you're scared about, what you're fearful of
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And so it just draws us closer together. So
Yeah.
I absolutely like, yeah, the vulnerability. And I feel like in the kinky blueprint, there's a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
So yeah. And I love that you brought up that like your client had a specific arousal path because like with the kinky
Mhm.
blueprint, a specific turn on can become like the only path to orgasm and arousal. So I love bringing
Mhm.
in the different erotic blueprints because that can be like that's awesome and that's great and that's wonderful and it can also be expanded. Pleasure can be had in
Mm.
different ways, and like if that's something that he desires, to desires to like kind of change or shift, it's totally possible. So
Right.
yeah. And the
Yeah,
the
no, I think
biggest
it's great. And I think too, go ahead.
no, please go right ahead.
Yeah, I just think that, as we kind of grow and change, we learn that there are so many important things in a relationship, but being sexually compatible is a really big one. And it's not just the P and the V, right? Like it is
Yeah.
the intimacy, and like you said, like maybe it's not even the sex part, but it's the touching or the not touching and the energy or whatever it is. And the more that we can relate that to each other and not judge, right? Just because this works for you and not me, that's okay. We can either decide together that we're going to keep working on this, or we can say, like if you're single, like I am, that, hey, you're just not my person. This is okay. Cool. Good for you. I'm not judging you. I went on a date with a guy who told me while we were at lunch that he's in an open relationship and lives with his girlfriend. And I said, cool. Good for you. That's not something I'm going to be involved in with you. That's something that is just a barrier for me. That's a boundary. I don't share. I'm not good at sharing. I didn't graduate kindergarten. I don't know. but but I don't judge him for that. Good for you. If that's what works for you, go for it. So I do think that just taking the judgment out of this, but having a safe place for these conversations is so incredibly important. So I love this blueprint outline, and that the fact that there's this quiz that you can take to kind of stimulate this conversation and really have a place to kind of talk it through.
Absolutely. Communication is key in all of these. I feel like communication is what brings us closer together. And that's what creates this deep intimacy. And yes,
Yeah.
taking the judgment out and celebrating each other for our diversity and our uniqueness. Like when I was judging my partner for being a sexual blueprint, like I was totally, there's nothing less sexy than criticism, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so shifting my behavior and my way of thinking to celebrating him in his sexual blueprint, huge difference. The energy is so much better, so much healthier, so much yummier and juicier. So yeah. And this is an awesome segue into the sexual blueprint, because I love celebrating the sexual blueprint, because sexual blueprint is like the social norm, right? And what I love about it is that it's easy. Sexual blueprint is easy. You know what you're going to do. You know what you're going to get. You know where you're going. You know how to please, because it's all about genital touch, nudity, nakedness. And so it's really easy to stimulate an orgasm when that is your blueprint and that's what you absolutely love. So sexual blueprint's really fun to play with, because you can try all these different fun things out and really like have it be a fun, joyful, experiential, time. Sexual blueprint really loves to get to that orgasm and really loves that climax. That's what it's all about. They are the people who are 0 to 60 ready, don't need anything special. And it makes it so much, it makes it really easy in my relationship, because like, for example, for my partner's birthday, I don't need to go out and get him anything. What he wants is for me to be naked in bed and ready for him. That is the best gift I could possibly give him, and it's free.
Right. I love it.
Yeah. So I just celebrate the sexual blueprint so much. So some of the shadows of the sexual blueprint are that they get really focused on the end goal of climax and orgasm. It's like, oh, if everybody doesn't have an orgasm, it wasn't successful. And so really, like, I love how the erotic blueprint sort of can take like orgasm and climax off the table and really brings in pleasure. It's more of a focus on pleasure and enjoying the process. Yes, we can enjoy the sexual blueprint, but we can also enjoy the sensual blueprint and the kiki blueprint. Instead of getting upset about like, this is a disaster because we weren't successful, there's a lot of success, that is available to us in a lot of different ways. So so refocusing, kind of shifting the focus from like all about genitals and P&V, like you said, to experiencing more pleasure and more joy.
Oh, I love that. That's a great one. All right, so we've covered 4. What's our last one?
So the last one is the shapeshifter blueprint. And the shapeshifter, they're the people who love it all and they want more of it. Okay. So like they can't be overwhelmed by too much stuff. They have a huge capacity for pleasure, because they can speak all of the different blueprints. So they'll love energetic, they'll love sensual, they'll love doing kinky stuff. And so they have this huge capacity. They're never boring. They're ever changing. And, they can be really, really open and like lots of variety and creativity. So these are people
Okay.
who can become like fantasy lovers. Um,
Ooh.
so some of the shadows of the shapeshifter blueprint is that they're often starving
Okay.
in a blueprint because they shapeshift to whatever their partner is. And so
Okay.
they kind of shapeshift to please other people.
Hmm.
And so if you have a sexual partner and you're a shapeshifter and all you're doing is do P and V, then like they're starving energetically, they're starving
Sure.
sensually. Or if all you do is kinky stuff, it's like, well, yeah, okay, we're doing all this kinky stuff and you're tying me up and that's hot, but like I need the P
Yeah.
and V, you know? So
Right.
being able to be fed in all the blueprints is in as a shapeshifter is hugely important. um Shapeshifters tend to get judged a lot for being like too
Mhm.
needy, too
Okay.
complicated, and too
Hmm.
complex because they've changed their
Hmm.
mind. Like they one minute they want
Mm.
something and the next minute they want something else, or
Yep.
something that happened, something that they experienced yesterday doesn't work for them today. So they can kind of get like really frustrated and confused and like, oh my gosh, like there is no system, there's no formula with a
Yeah.
shapeshifter.
I bet their partner can get real frustrated and confused then too.
Yes. Oh yes, most definitely. And like they can be seen as like you're insatiable, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of
Mm.
hard to feed. And so um the importance of understanding all of this is being able to communicate your wants, your needs and your desires to another
Hmm.
person, and for you to understand what feeds you so that you can actually feed yourself, so that you're
Hmm.
not looking to other people to feed you because you're starving.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, that totally
like,
makes sense. It's fun because as I'm
yeah.
listening to you talk about these different ones, I'm like, oh, I see a little myself there, a little myself there. But man, did you just hit it on the head with this shapeshifter? Because I was thinking like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And now there's one that connects all of them. And I'm like, sign me up, baby. That's me. Because that is, yep. Because what worked for me Tuesday night does not work for me Thursday night.
Yep.
And whoever I am with, I am sorry. But you just got to learn me every day.
Huh?
I'm a lot of fun though.
Yeah. Fantasy lover right here, Stephanie. Yeah.
We can tell my
Awesome.
mom is not going to listen to this episode.
Like, wouldn't it be fun to like see what people's erotic blueprints are in their dating profiles?
Yes. What a
Like
great idea.
how
Maybe you can create an app.
So I actually have a confession because my psychological kinky loves to be fed um, with online chatting. And so I
Okay.
have a profile on an app and I put what my erotic blueprints are in there. And then I
I love
invite
it.
people to take the quiz and message me. And I won't message anybody who doesn't come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I read your profile and I took the quiz
Hmm.
and I'm a da 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 da." Like that's the
Perfect.
conversation starter. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
like I highly recommend if you have a dating profile, um this is all really great information to like put out there. Oh, so much
Yeah.
fun because you go on a date and like, okay, I'm going on a date with a shapeshifter. Okay, I kind of know what they like. And so I can
Yeah.
like and you can better be better prepared, and so like in that I wanted to share, like my mind's going a million miles a second. You were talking earlier about changing your blueprints
Hmm.
changing, and yes, when my partner and I started working with this framework over 10 years ago, we retook the erotic blueprint quiz, and
Hmm.
he went from a sexual being his highest to a shapeshifter.
Hmm.
So he expanded so much in the energetic and the sensual and the kinky because of me
Yeah.
and because of what we were talking about and communicating
Yeah.
and me saying, "Hey, I really want this and I really want that." And him being willing to,
Hmm.
go to those, to try these things out and to meet me there, that he is now a shapeshifter. So he can play in all the different
Okay.
realms.
That's
And that's
awesome.
super exciting. Yeah, because now I have a fantasy
Yeah.
lover that I can be like, I want this, and I
Yeah.
want this, I want this. And yeah.
And he's eager to please.
Yep. And he knows that like my, my kinky blueprint like needs to chat with other people. Like we're in a
Yeah.
monogamous relationship, but I like need outside stimulation, especially in the form of words and writing, because he's highly
Mm-hmm.
sexual. Words don't come easily to him. He's
Okay.
not into poetry. He's not into
Mm.
creating a whole fantasy story for me. So he's like
Yeah.
totally cool with me chatting with people and getting fed in that way, because it just makes me
Yeah.
hotter and juicier for him when he gets home. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
open,
And
it's
he's ready for genital
transparent.
touch.
I'm totally ready for that.
Right? Yeah. There we
Uh-huh.
go. That's awesome. Oh, I love this. Laurie, if you had to say like, okay, so we have energetic, sensual, sexual. Which one am I missing before shapeshifting?
Kinky.
Kinky. How could I forget kinky? Kinky and shapeshifting. Okay, so we've got the 5 blueprints. We have a pretty good understanding. So is there any other like major take home point that you want to tell people today before we kind of wrap things up?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I learned that was a huge change, a huge game changer in my relationship, is that the sensual blueprint needs to relax in order to
Mm.
have sex. And the
Mm-hmm.
sexual blueprint needs to have sex in order to relax.
Got it.
And so that made the world of difference, because now I understand my partner better. He needs to have that orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to have that climax so that he can relax. All of that energy and all of that pent up energy, or, fun energy, like needs to get released.
Yeah.
And I'm different. I need to be soothed. I need a lot of space. I need a lot of time. I need to get out of my head and into my body. Like knowing all this stuff about myself, I can then better prepare. Okay, if
Sure.
we're going to be intimate, I need to get out of my head. I need to forget about the
Yeah.
shopping list and what happened and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I really,
Yeah.
and then I go into, some sexy dance, some self massage, like dress
Yeah.
up in something, really like glam it up.
Yeah.
I really went deep into my sensual blueprint, to help me open up, soften,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to expand. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And I am going to run, not walk, over to your website to take this quiz because I am so excited about it now after talking to you. And it sounds so much fun. And just to like do more learning on these different sexual blueprints, I think it's just so much fun. So, Laurie, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us today. And like I said early on in the show, we'll put everything down in the show notes so you can find Laurie, you can work with her, you can do the quiz and make your sex life better. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Between the Sheets. Have a great night.
Stephanie.
Yay! We did it. That was fun. Thank you for listening and spending time with me today. You can catch new episodes of Between the Sheets every Wednesday. Because what better way to add some spice to your life than to have a new podcast on Hump Day? We will continue to explore common, uncommon, and taboo topics related to sexual health and wellness. Please send any comments, questions, or stories to podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. That's all one word, podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. Have a great day. And remember how important it is to discuss these topics with your friends, your family, and of course your partners. In fact, you can like, follow, and share this podcast so they can see it too. See you next time for more sexual health topics Between the Sheets.